Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm here with Ankela and we are sitting on this gorgeous outdoor patio.
It's beautiful to share this time with all of you. We got such wonderful responses for the other shoots that we did,
Yep.
and I've been in correspondence with quite a few people that enjoyed our get-togethers.
Yep. A couple handwritten letters, right?
Yes, handwritten letters and really exchanging ideas, telling one another what we think, what we experience. It's wonderful.
Yep. So you'll hear the birds singing and hopefully you'll feel like you're here with us. So, like Ankela was saying, quite a few people have had the privilege of corresponding with her, but for all of you that are too busy or just haven't got around to writing her a handwritten letter, we're going to answer, or I was going to ask her some of your questions. So the first one that a lot of people have been wondering, Ankela, is how did you manage to raise 9 sons? But we could first start actually with the question of how you met Ulfhedr, that's grandfather, and his name is Dan. So how did you meet and what was that like?
Well, I was going to nursing school and did not have a driver's license. So he was asked by the person responsible for transport from our community to go and fetch me. So as time went on, he realized that he had more of an interest for me than a driver. So he was given the chance to talk with me more personally, and I told him what I experienced in school because I was living at the hospital, and he told me what I missed at home. And as time went on, we got to know one another and decided until it came to the moment that he really wished to connect with me properly for the future and asked me about it. And by that time I also felt for it. And I always thank God that he is the one that knew it before me, that we belong
Knew that you
together.
belonged together. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then later when questions came about education or what do we do with the boys when this comes up or that comes up, I could recognize him as the head of the family and respect him for that. We could exchange ideas and thoughts. By nature, we are very different, aren't we?
Yes, you are. You are.
But it worked. We again and again found unity in what we were looking for, also for the boys.
Do you want to just insert here, just tell a little bit about who Ulfhedr is? You know, you mentioned education. What kind of education did he have? Where is he from?
Well, he did not go any further than 9th grade. And he often reminded me of that. You know more. But really, the down-to-earth feeling for education and for how to bring up the boys was more for him. And I respected it, even though I didn't let him be the boss. But we decided to really listen to one another if we have questions. And of course, the ideas were different often. But in the end, it didn't matter. The main thing is that we found peace with one another, which we always did.
Yeah, and I'm sure all your sons would say, and I know that me and my siblings have heard from our dad that you complement each other beautifully. I mean, and us as your grandchildren, we can see it. Like,
Yeah.
Ulfhedr is very practical, and I mean, you are too, but you definitely have had a higher education. You're a nurse, so you know a lot more about science probably, and right.
Yeah. But our interests are very similar in history and in people.
Yep.
in that way, he gave much more of a direction also to our sons, to reach out to people, to be concerned for other people, not only people from the community. So they all have taken to that.
It's really true, and my dad definitely passed that from you to me and my siblings.
Yeah.
So you and Allfetter had 9 sons. For those of you that don't know that, well, it's a fact. 9 boys. And how did that all work out for you?
The wonderful thing is that they came one by one.
That is very lucky.
So that when one came, we could really enjoy the baby and watch the development. And then later, of course, when it came to educational questions or behavior questions, they were all at different stages. And to tell the truth, if we learned something by one of them, we could not always apply it to the next.
Too bad.
For us, the main thing was that we loved them and took time. Any mother that's listening to me, take time with your children. Even if it is late in the evening and you are ready to go to bed and the boys are just beginning to open to tell you what happened during the day, stop in your tracks and listen.
That's a good word. That's a very good word. Do you have any stories or anecdotes from when you're raising the boys? Is there any tips you could give? So I have 2 boys. Is there any tips on raising sons that you would give?
One that comes to mind is that one of our boys when he was about a kindergarten age, was very interested in everything, screwdrivers, clamps, and you name it. And if he found something that tickled his fancy, he put it in his pocket and came home. And we could right away see in the evening there's something here that comes from a different place where it actually belongs. So I warned him a few times, if you continue to do that, I have to take measures. So I didn't tell him what I was going to do. But when it happened again, I unpicked the bottom of both of his pockets so that when he put something into the pocket, zip, it fell all the way through. And that happened only once.
And he never did it again?
And he never did it again. That was a cure.
That's so funny.
It worked with him. It doesn't always work, but it worked with him.
That's great.
And also, telling the truth. If something happened with other boys and I heard about it, we face them with the facts rather than say, tell us, because that gives also opportunity for lying.
Right.
So we just face them with the facts. This is what we heard. And this teacher told us about it. Of course, we have the privilege that we know exactly that our teachers all work in the same direction as we as parents, and there's a close relationship between the teachers and the parents, which I know that many mothers and fathers don't have. The teachers feel different than the parents.
Yeah, and for those of you that are either new listeners or new watchers, so Ankela's referring to our Bruderhof community elementary and middle schools, and we're really lucky that we have them, and so many of the teachers are members of the community, have their own children attending the schools as well. So we're really lucky that we work together to raise our children. And that being said, there's often children from the wider community or from the locality come in and also get to experience education here, so which we love. So anyway, little side note there, but that's what you're referring to. So another question that a lot of people have asked is how you managed to feed your big family and what kind of go-to recipes you had. But you must have had like a pretty big table with a lot of people sitting around, right?
Yeah, we're 9 boys and
Yeah.
2 parents.
11.
A regular breakfast was 11 people who could easily eat up a whole dozen eggs. So mostly I mixed the pancakes and my husband made them. Or then later as the boys grew older, they took turns making them. But having suppers together where I prepared the whole meal, there were questions around the table during supper. Which recipe book did you use? Or who told you how to make it like this? Indirect questions that then were not
That's so
quite
bad.
happy with what they were served. So I had enough of that, and I said once, listen, the next supper that we are having together, you will prepare. I will go into my room and I will fix your pants and whatever else needs to be fixed, and I'm not going to help you. You do the whole thing and just experience what it is to make a meal for a family. So that's what happened. I brought into the kitchen what we needed. Then I went into my room and locked the door from the inside. Every once in a while, knock, knock, knock. Ma, how do you do this? Or how do you do that? Or how long should it cook? And I just didn't answer. They had to try it out themselves. And at the end, when we sat around the table, the meal was quite good. And I didn't ask about the recipe book. I was just grateful that the boys did it.
But I'm sure they were also grateful for your cooking afterwards.
I am sure.
That's great. That's such a good story. Did you have any, I guess you mentioned pancakes, but did you have any go-to recipes that you enjoyed making or that they enjoyed eating?
They just love to eat cereal.
Okay.
So I just roasted oats, simply with molasses and margarine, a little bit like granola, because if you know boys, they eat a lot.
Yeah. Didn't you have a special name for it?
The boys, when they called it morning love. because
They loved it in the
because
morning,
they
I
loved
guess.
it, and they only got it in, actually they didn't only eat it in the morning, they also nibbled in the evening. So, but it was called morning love.
That's so sweet. I can just imagine that. So, Ankela, like what kind of activities would you do during family time or on weekends or whatever? Because you must have had a pretty big range of ages.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard a couple stories, but you should tell.
Well, one thing, if you think, we love to make maple syrup.
Right.
And that's always, when maple syrup time came, it was like a fever. It had to be done, even if it went till midnight. Well, in order to have a good fire burning, to boil the sap, you need firewood. So that was a good project for the whole summer and into the fall to find good places where you can get the firewood and then chop it and have it ready to be burned. And then early like March, the sapping would start. So buckets had to be collected and cleaned, and spiles had to be put in and buckets hung. And then the collection, every evening when they came home from school, was a collection.
Yeah, with like huge big barrels and
Yeah.
carry buckets full of sap and
Yeah.
it's cold
Which
and muddy
meant
and
walking
slippery.
into the snowy woods, getting the buckets and emptying them into the barrel. And then the boiling. That also had to be done carefully.
Yeah.
You couldn't just make a fire and let it burn high. And then all of it, when it came to the stage where it nearly was finished, it was bedtime for the boys, maybe 8 or 9 o'clock. So that's when my husband then stayed out late, often until 11, 12 o'clock.
Wow.
and brought it in, and I finished the very last.
Yeah, you kind of on the stove with like a big
Yeah.
pot, and then you pour it into the jars.
Yeah.
Wow, it is quite a process.
So you can stretch it in activity pretty much throughout the year.
What other kinds of things
But
did you do?
my husband was also the shoe repairer
Okay.
for the community. So we had a little shoe repair shop, and he often had boys with him. And then he also repairs watches.
That is right. Yeah, that's a
Which-
hobby he still does.
Yeah. Which also included the boys.
And now
He
he's
was
gotten.
very careful about that because he works the best when he's alone.
Because it's
Then-
really fine work. He even has
Yeah.
a pair of glasses that he has a magnifying glass and then another magnifying glass. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's fun to watch him work if you can be quiet
Yeah.
for that long.
But they're all interested in it.
Yeah, yeah. And now he's also taken to fixing cuckoo clocks and
Yeah,
chiming clocks, cleaning the main springs and winding them up.
yeah.
I was remembering when I lived with you in England for 2 years, I helped him out with that. I would refinish the outer part, like the wood part, sand it and
Yeah.
re-lacquer it,
Yeah.
and he did all the internal workings. It's amazing. It's quite a hobby.
Yeah, he's going on 85 and still does it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And he's also a plumber, right? By trade, he must have learned on the job or
On the job.
as an apprentice
Yeah.
with somebody.
Well, he worked with a certified plumber
Okay.
for quite a long time, who always told him what to do and how to do it, and then left him. And whenever my husband had a question about plumbing, he always could call him and got good advice.
Okay, that's cool.
So he really, I would say he's an experienced plumber.
Yeah, oh yeah. And then he would probably also bring the boys along for
Yeah.
that. He
Oh,
taught
yes.
his sons.
Yeah.
So when I picked you up today, Ankela lives in a different location than us, so we were in the car today and we were chatting a bit, and one thing we were talking about, something that's very important for you and for me, is our faith, right? And I'm wondering how you, for myself and for our family and for my own sons, how did you teach your boys faith, or how did that work?
Well, my husband comes from a family in Canada that was very open with prayer, and with his father was a German teacher in the community, and he always told the kids stories from the Bible. And actually we did it very simple. We didn't sit down and taught religion, but through very simple stories, tell like how brave David was, or how Daniel insisted on the faith in the one God, and because of that was in the lion's den. And I think those things make an impression on children. And then they also saw what, like, if we would repair shoes for anyone that came, rather showing deeds, that showing love is one of the most important things. And it just so happens that all 9 of our boys had a time away from our community, and found for themselves how they wanted to live their lives in our life of brotherhood. And people ask us, how did you manage that? And I can only say it was despite of us. We made mistakes, and they probably will also make mistakes in their families, but we always loved them, each single one. And as they grew up, of course, their characters showed also that they're different. And to accept that, to accept the difference in each one. And as they got married, changing even more. and accept that.
Mm-hmm.
Not to have the attitude to change them or want them to be like we want it.
Yeah. To try to force something.
Yeah.
And what do you think about prayer? For praying for your kids, or do you want to say anything about that? Because I know we've talked before about that.
Yeah. Well, it can be overdone in the words. So my parents came from a background where it was overdone, and so did my husband.
Too much religion, or
Yeah,
too much.
too many words.
Okay.
To rather say a simple prayer and then be quiet. Continue it in the heart. And also to remember that you can actually pray all day long, also by being quiet.
Mm-hmm. So, Ankela, thank you for that, because it's something that I think a lot about as Chris and I are raising our boys. I mean, we have so much to learn and so much to look forward to, and I'm so thankful for your input. And hopefully my viewers and your viewers are. I hope you're encouraged by Ankela's words. So I have a question for you. It's actually from a viewer. So my last question for you is there anything on your bucket list that you would just love to do? Is there anything that just like, you just have this dream in your mind of something that you would just love to do?
Well, as we were driving here, we saw, what are those, parachutes.
Yes, parachutes. Yeah, that's true.
And I thought to myself, no, I'm not wishing to come down in a parachute. But when I sit at the river, at the Hudson River, we live very close to the Hudson River,
Yeah.
the wish came to me once to be in a boat, starting up here at Kingston and going all the way down to New York City. Just in a boat.
That's a great wish. That's awesome.
Not necessarily a rowboat,
I think that would take a bit too long.
but just to go on the river and all the way down there and view both sides from the river point of
Hudson
view.
Highlands, Bannerman Island, all that.
Yeah.
That'd be beautiful. I wonder how many miles it is
I
from up
want-
where we are, like 80, 100?
Well, on the thruway.
We'll have to look. On the thruway it says 100,
It
yeah,
says
that's true.
100.
Yeah, so that would be awesome. We should see if we can make that happen, Ankela.
And that would be just for the joy of it. Completely for the joy of it.
I love that. Oh, and one last thing, which I forgot to ask you earlier, was about your knitting, because every time we talk about your knitting, and this is so beautiful. How do you do that?
Well, I increase here and decrease here.
It's like, I don't know if you can see it, but it's like triangles, like with the knitting is going this way. It looks like it. But you're still... Oh yeah, you are knitting
What
at an
I
angle.
am doing
It's
is
incredible.
knitting a piece like this with 7 triangles.
Mhm.
And I have a red one
Nice.
and this blue one. I will make 2 blue, 2 red and 2 white, or maybe 1 white, which would make 7.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? 1, 2.
1, 2, yes, yeah, 7. Yep.
Anyways.
Yep.
And then stitch it together to make a baby Afghan.
That's beautiful. That is very beautiful. And do you have a place where you donate them to,
Yeah.
or do you make them?
Yeah, there is a lady in New York City who loves to hand out hand-knitted blankets or scarves or hats directly to a homeless that you would see on the street.
Wow.
And people donate yarn to her, so we always have yarn to knit, so that she always has something to donate.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is very beautiful. Okay, so That was fun.
We wish everybody the best, joy in life, more questions if you have them. And I really do enjoy correspondence, pen pals.
You're the best, Ankela. I love you. All right, so on that happy note, we'll say goodbye and see you at some point. Sorry my videos are infrequent. It's summer. I'm enjoying my summer. So, see you.